All right, welcome back to the Level Up and Live podcast. I'm your host, Sean Meyers, and today we're doing something special, out of the norm, something different. We've got our Level Up and Live leadership team here in the room, in the virtual studio. We got Cody Schneider, Micah Harhoff, and Michael David Riley, aka the MD. These are men who are building businesses, leading teams, raising families, and doing the hard work of designing lives they don't grow to hate. Today, we're answering our members, our followers, questions on leadership, marketing, communication, building teams, buying businesses, and leveling up as an emerging leader. So buckle up because this is going to be real, raw, and built for anyone committed to playing the long game. So fellas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So our first question that we have from one of our members is, what was the first major bottleneck you hit that forced you to stop working in the business and start working on the business? Great question.
Me personally, mine was I was missing kids' events. I was tired of it. I said there's got to be a better way, right? So I started implementing whatever that took, replacing the roles that I was playing. Who can take over these roles, and started with I wouldn't say the easiest necessarily, but the ones that I felt I could let control of that go. And then it just built from there, years and years of compounding that. But I would say my biggest one was struggling to make it to events, struggling to make it on time to those, but I was always on time for a customer, So that would be mine.
I'll jump in on it. I think for me, it was probably burnout. I was burned out doing the same thing every day, and I was doing every aspect of the company. I was driving, buying, selling, every aspect of it. And I think I started to realize I could not scale this effectively I read the book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and I started really painting a picture of what this looked like at full scale, and doing it how I was doing it was just going to lead to more burnout. And coming from previously failed companies, I think the burnout kind of pushed me. I was like, we're not doing that again.
Mm-hmm. That's really good, man. This was a really good question. And when I think of bottleneck, I thought about trying to do it all myself. When I first started the insurance company in 2015, I immediately thought, it's like, oh, nobody can do it better than me. Nobody can do sales better. Nobody can do service better. Nobody can do emails, text messages, you name it. Nobody can do it better than me. And when I quickly learned that once I was doing all the work, that may be true. But at the end of the day, for me to really get to where I want to go, what's the alternative? I had to learn to delegate. And so when I realized and was self-aware, it's like, I'm the bottleneck in this business. It's not going to get me to where I want to go by doing all the work, because I'm just a one-man show. Everything ran through me, the decisions, the choices, and it was exhausting. So I was like, this is definitely not sustainable. So I picked up a book and I highly recommend this for the individual that asked this question. It's called The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber. I've read this book multiple times, and one of the things that it made me realize in this book is that I can sit here and do all the work in the business, but I'm just the bottleneck. I'm the liability in the business, and it's going to be getting as far as my ability, my capacity will allow me. And once I started learning about delegation and removing myself and then finding people that did the job better than me, to me, that freed me up to go do what it is that I'm really good at. Now, it's taken 10 years to learn this, but it was the concept of, okay, let me try to replace myself in these different areas of the business so I can free myself to go focus in on what it is that I'm really good at. And now everything's not running through me, it's running through the different people of the team. So that's when the concept of removing myself as the bottleneck and building this business and scaling the business was working on the business. And then I started accepting and relinquishing that control to delegate, because it wasn't a weakness. It was more of a strength. And I stayed in my lane is my long drawn out answer. MD, any thoughts on that?
We all have specific gifts and talents that we sharpen and we get really good at. And then we come to a point where our capacity is stretched. And so that's where I had to, yes, I can do a lot of things, but I shouldn't do everything, to make sure that, because when you end up trying to do everything in an extended period of time, that's when you deal with burnout, because you're doing things that you're not really meant to do, that takes away from your real skill. So that's where you hire, you delegate. And that was for me, where I had to sit back and go, okay, these are some things I can do, but this is also taking away from what I'm really, really good at. And having to just admit that was probably the biggest hurdle, I think, for me. Because as any business owner, entrepreneur, you want to believe that you can do everything. And so the moment you have to admit, I can't do this anymore, you have to take your ego out of it, because it's really about being effective and continuing where your energy is really placed in the areas that you really thrive and you bring the most to your business, not the least.
That's really good.
80% done is 100% awesome.
Yeah, great.
Amen to that, brother. Second question, how are you implementing AI into your company, business to improve efficiencies and lower overhead, while at the same time not lose the company culture and customer relationship? It's a really good question.
Yeah.
That's from our member, Bo Jolly, wasn't it?
Bo Jolly.
Yes, sir.
Avid listener.
I'm not too big on it just yet, but I am looking into it. Been digging into it for a couple months now, and really looking to implement a couple of things, possibly the start of the first of the year. As far as like answering service, that way that phone's always answered. There's never a missed call. So looking to roll some stuff out, but haven't really dove too deep into it just yet.
I'd say for us,
go ahead, Micah.
Okay. We use it more on the back end than the front end. So that's designing systems, designing processes, like all of our messaging. We're a dealership, so we get 600 to 1,000 leads a month, right? It's very hard to have somebody filter through those, right? A lot of them are spam. A lot of them are just somebody scrolled past our ad or whatever. So we use AI on the back end to filter most of the requests that come through social media. If you've messaged my page, you get an automated response and whatnot. And it's almost more on the back end, so we can focus more on that customer experience on the front end, instead of having to deal with all these little small tasks or whatnot. But personally, for me as an owner, I use it, for emails and calendar optimization and all these different things on the back end, so we can focus more on the front end.
Yeah, it's really good. To dovetail off of that, Micah, one of the things that I've realized about AI is it's there to handle task, and I'm there to, as the leader, to handle people and the emotional behind, whether that's customers, whether that's our team members, our leaders, is I need to be leading the people, and AI really handles the brunt work of those tasks. And one of the things I've also realized about AI, and I'm learning about it just like kind of like Cody said, is it really allows us to free up our time, and maybe even some of our administrative assistants. I know, MD, you could probably talk on that, on how you've been leveraging AI. I leverage AI, whether that's social media content, simply pulling up ChatGPT, and then, basically using the audio version of it to kind of share what's on my mind, get different perspectives, thoughts, and being able to either roll that out on social media content, and just allowing me to, instead of doing hours in during the week on research about what type of content I'm going to roll out, I leverage that from extracting it from my mind to AI. So it just allows me to reinvest that time back into the relationship part of it with the people and the leadership. And then also another thing that I've learned that we've started kind of getting our feet wet with it is it multiplies the efficiency. Because at the end of the day, I feel like humans, we are built on, trust, which takes time. You build trust in drips, and then it's taken away in buckets. And with AI, there is no feelings, there is no emotion. So it really just is very excellent at efficiency. So in figuring out how to align that with building the business with those types of tasks, and then making sure that I'm sticking with more of building the trust, the intimacy, the connections, the relationships with the human beings. without fully, having AI take over, because it would be easy, kind of like what Cody said, to have a customer service rep at the insurance company start answering all your insurance questions. And I just think it takes the human connection out of that. Now, maybe in the future, they do it better than some humans, but at the end of the day, it's figuring out what works and what doesn't for your business is my thoughts on that.
I see AI. It's an effective tool, but we're also in a place where it can be damaging. Cody, you guys use it on the back end. A lot of people are using it in the marketing world in the front end, and it's great for entertaining. The Yetis and the gorilla running through the forest drinking Red Bull. I mean, it's a lot of great content out there that people are creating. And then there's other businesses that certain AI tools that you can take your likeness and actually create short form videos or sales videos that looks and sounds almost exactly like you. So it can reduce the production time, which is causing the agency world to flip upside down because they were used to making money on production. But the other flip side of it, though, is when as we're using it as a cognitive tool to help us with brainstorming and thinking things through, there have been 3 significant studies done earlier this year that mapped about 15,000 people that utilize AI for Q&A, for brainstorming, for thinking through things. And what they found, there was about a 30% decline in cognitive activity in the front part of their brain that we use for thinking. So because we're allowing AI to do a lot more heavy lift thinking for us. Now, AI is effective because it's so quick, and we're getting into this quick society where I always enjoyed the roundtables where you get other people's thoughts. Well, AI is kind of doing that to a degree. So it's a tool. It shouldn't be the end all be all for everything, to have some caution with it, but it is also extremely effective and helpful when you use it in the right places in your business to make sure that it doesn't destroy the culture. And from the front placing part, if you're trying to build trust as a business, how are you going to build trust in a real authentic connection when you're using AI as the front facing personality to do it? So yes, it's great. You can use it, but it doesn't mean you should use it for everything.
Good question. When to hire? If a company needs more salespeople to increase revenue, but adding another salary would put a strain on the company based on current income, how would you approach that?
Mike, I should say.
I would say this is the number one question I see with startup companies. And I mean, we've all been a startup at one point. But for me, I hire based on bottlenecks and to buy my time back. So essentially, I look at it as an investment. People will go buy a new truck or buy machinery or something that's going to get the job done faster, better, whatever. And they see that as an investment, right? Well, people are an investment also. So, I'll take a 90-day snapshot of their potential salary. And if they're not going to bring in more, and you have direct and indirect revenue producers, right? So for me, it might be my assistant costs me, whatever per year, but that frees up so much of my time where I can go sell 4 times that in revenue because I'm not doing all these $10 an hour tasks, right? So Dan Martell has kind of the buy back your time method, and that's essentially how I hire.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the biggest things too is when I read this question in the notes that I had made, was the first thing that I realized was that why are you hiring? Is it to buy back your time? Is it because of growth? Like what's the thought process behind that? And I agree with you, Micah. That's the reason we hire, is to essentially buy back my time, whether it's social media, whether it's sales, marketing, customer service, you name it. I would rather have a small fleet of a team. I don't need 100 people. I'd rather have a small team that is really maximizing, pumping on all 8 cylinders, because they're the right person in the right seat, and that's what they're really good at. And I'm not the one doing that work because they're the right person in the right seat. That takes time, energy, and effort and money to do that. So my question would be, are you hiring to buy back your time, or are you hiring because your team can't hit the next target without breaking, and their performance it's a lack of performance, or it's a lack of accountability. So a lot of times what I have learned from entrepreneurs and business owners is there's a lack of performance, there's a lack of accountability and there's a lack of having those hard conversations. So I'm just going to go hire more salespeople, hire more marketing because the job's not getting done. Well, 9 times out of 10 is because the business owner, the leader's not having those hard conversations, those accountability conversation, and really not taking the calculated risk versus, hey, let's hire for growth, kind of like what Micah was talking about on, is this a strategic move? Is this a smart move? Is this a wise move in hiring this person? And if not, then what's making me make this decision on wanting to hire this person are my thoughts.
Any hire should remove a bottleneck. And when I read this question, I see another bottleneck being created if your salary can't support them, right? So, I don't know. All of my first hires were direct revenue producers, salespeople, but then I had a handful of indirect ones. Transport, for example. I started paying someone to go pick these machines up, right, so I could spend more time selling. So it was one of those. Yeah, I had a cost associated with transport, right? But that freed my time up to be able to spend more time actually selling and bring the revenue in to support that transport. And it just ends up being a circle, as you do it. I think Cody had something.
No, I was just saying that was a really good sum up of it. Got to replace something. And then ultimately, like Sean was saying, how you're leading and how you set that person up to what are you bringing them in for. And then I like your method too, Micah, you've shared this a couple of times where you set a 90-day goal with them, right? It's like, okay, they may want a salary that you can't afford right now. However, if you're bringing them in for that position and they can increase that revenue to hit it, then you match them, right? And I think that comes down to what Sean said, talking to them, having the hard conversations like, hey, this is what the company can afford right now to pay you. But if you can hit these goals within the next 90 days, we can easily match what you're wanting. So,
yeah, I would say all of our pay plans are, at least for revenue producers, they are growth based. So I'm bringing you in here to grow my company, right? So here's what we've done without you, and you'll get paid past that, right? So your job is to come in, bring in more revenue, eliminate tasks, free up salespeople's time, whatever it is, right? And then we set very clear KPIs on where you need to be to make the money you want. You might want to make $250,000. Cool. Let's figure out how to do it, right? And here's the KPIs attached to that. So.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that taps into, especially this day and age, it may have worked 10, 15, 20 years ago where you're paying somebody $250,000 a year to come in but it's not tied to anything, right? You're just paying them a salary. And I feel like you really got to pay for performance nowadays. Sure, you can start off at an hourly, a salary rate, but if somebody's wanting to earn more income, even a leadership team at our insurance company, it's like, I want you to experience, if you're on my leadership team and you're a high performer, you're a high achiever, I want you to experience the ups and the downs, just like I would as the founder and owner. And we've done that. And it's been a game changer, and they understand that, and your team has to understand that. So if they're only looking at it from like, well, I want to get paid, $50,000 a year. Okay, what is that going to be sustainable? And so if that's the case, and that's what, and that's where they are in their journey of where they are within the company, okay, cool. But if you're wanting to hit that next target, and if you're wanting to grow, you have, to me, it's like Micah says, you have to tie that to that compensation. You have to tie that to that growth plan. And that stretches them, that because it's who they become in that journey, and having that conversation, because it allows them to take that true ownership behind the scenes, because now they're going from making $50,000 a year, that employee mindset of, hey, I'm working 8 to 5, I'm checking out and I'm spreading myself thin, I'm earning a salary hourly. It's a different mindset than somebody. It's like, crap, man, my compensation is tied to the growth of this company, and we have got to hit, 15% growth over. I mean, that is a next level ownership. So I think that's the way to do it, especially if you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 people, and with those 5, 10, 15, 20 people, if you can get that same ownership mindset, man, you become an unstoppable army in what you're trying to do and tying that to that growth plan.
Couldn't have said it better.
Boom. All right. How much should a small business spend on marketing and advertising? Why is setting a budget so important? Micah, I thought of you when I read this question.
Yeah. Does Micah even have a budget for that?
I do actually. It's such a controversial question because it really does fall into it's the same circle like the previous question, hiring a salesperson to increase revenue, right? I look at marketing as essentially another employee, right? For me, what's performed best for us is about 10% of total revenue. But I mean, like, we have so many metrics that we track and everything else to where it's KPI based, right? Cost per conversion, cost per click, how many leads it takes to make a sale, to set an appointment, whatever else, right? But I mean, so as far as marketing goes, there's 3 types of marketing, right? Not all of it has a cost associated with it. So for us, the 3, and I learned this from Buster Barsh, but you have lead generation, that's paid ads, paid leads essentially, right? And then you have branding, that's like the wrap truck, your billboards, signs in people's yards, whatever it is. It's just people see your sign all over the place, and when they need something, they think of you, right? And that kind of pairs with your Google page, right? And then you have community involvement, which is like for me, it's the Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, different things, right? Well, branding and community involvement don't require a lot of actual ad spend or revenue out, right? But you're in the community, people see us everywhere, and there's not a huge cost tied to that. You know, your biggest cost is lead generation. But I believe it's important to have all 3 tied together. You know, if somebody needs a side-by-side and they're going through, Power Sports Near Me on Google or whatever it is, and they just start scrolling, well, they've seen my logo in the bathrooms, on highways, everywhere, the wrap truck, everything. And then boom, they see me on Google and it clicks in their head, right? I think MD probably has more on the social media side of that. But I think it's something like somebody's got to see you 7 times or something before it actually clicks in your head, right? So by being everywhere, with not a huge cost associated with it, when you are in need of something, you're scrolling Google, it clicks in your head and you go with us. But for us, it's about a 10% overall budget.
It's really good. I think I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. My approach, on the flip side of that, has always been kind of like the Andy Elliott. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Andy Elliott's story, but I think he made it known like he didn't spend a lot. I don't think he had a budget for marketing. I think everything that he did was organic. He just basically got in front of your face on YouTube, TikTok, and just called people out, had them take their shirts off. Yeah. I've always related to that because that's kind of how I've always approached social media, is just in your face marketing.
Yeah.
But the rule of thumb is when I've broken things down and reverse engineered, it's always been around that 5 to 10% of the gross revenue. So Mike, I know you said you're probably on the higher side, but there's so many faucets to that. But man, there's it just depends on what your personality is, and for the individual, I think this was Jeremy Lawrence that asked this. So just depending on your style and your personality, your temperament, and what that looks like for you. But I think that 5 to 10% is the oxygen for your business.
I think too, for me, I was literally in business for 17 years before I did any type of actual pay. Well, I take that back. I did have my vehicles wrapped. But I think making a good name for yourself first and foremost, like if you have struggle paying for bills or employees or anything of that nature, I wouldn't even think about advertising. Just I would think more along the lines of what systems and what do you need to implement in-house, because if you're doing good quality work, word of mouth is one of the best things ever. But I've been just this past year dabbling in it because we want to grow and expand and get our name out there more, right? We built a great company over 20 years, but we want more people to know about us, right? Especially on the custom install side. So for me, it's all new, and I'm taking advice from amazing people like MD, Matt Klusick, people that are in that industry, and just trying to tie it into the budget now. How much can I afford? What does that look like? And then, from what I have learned is it takes time to establish that repetition, and again, like Micah said, got to see us 7 times before they go, you know what, I'm going to go with this company, especially when you're talking big ticket items, things of $10, $20, $30,000 at a time that somebody's willing to spend. But yeah, look in your budget, I highly recommend it. It will definitely increase your sales and production of the company, but you need to make sure on the back end that you're doing what you got to do too. So
yeah, I would say that the second part to this question I skipped over, but why is setting a budget so important? And I would say it's for consistency, because what I ran into early on is I would underspend when we were slow and overspend when we were high. So, or when we're busy. So by setting that budget's the same no matter, if we're slow or busy, right? So it just created a lot of consistency on my side. And marketing is all about being consistent.
Yeah, agreed. Because I think I think what happens a lot of times is slower season or the economy's taking a dip. I'm going to back off on my marketing. Whereas guys like
you should go heavy. Yeah,
you should go heavy. That's the mindset around it. It's like, nope, 10%. That's what I'm going to be spending. It's on my gross revenue. This is what we're going to reinvest back into that. And that's I kind of like a little bit of I've learned this from me and Cody. I kind of on the same page. It's like, hey, we're gonna reputation, credibility, trust. People do business, customer referrals, and that's really been our sweet spot, and it's been a game changer. And then Micah comes into my life. I'm like, dude, this dude's. That's interesting. You say 10%, Mike. I figured it would have been more like 75%, but. That's pretty impressive. But and with Level Up and Live, it's been like, oh no, it's more, it's way more than 10%. Just dumping it all back in there. So, and
I think it's on industry too. Like Cody's in a very niche industry, right? So I don't search aquariums near me and have to filter through 500 different dealerships, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what your niche is, I think Jeremy, it's a question by Jeremy. He owns an AC company, right? There's one on every corner. So your marketing budget is going to be higher than somebody that does, specialty fish tanks.
That's good.
It all comes down to really where you are in your business, if you're starting up or if you've been established to 5 to 10 years. And then based on your industry too. And like Micah just referenced, because you're front facing, your service based, your hospitality, your automotive, those are going to demand a much higher budget because you're going to deal with a lot of market saturation. Yeah. When you're in a lower category like Cody, where you're niched, it's going to be very effective. But for most businesses to really look at, there's 3 pillars of it. There's your branding, which is your reputation, your tonality, your culture, your pillars, why you're in business. That's your marketing. That's going to be your communications. That's going to be the consistency of the message that is going out there. And then your advertising, which I'll call a profit faucet. So when you need more leads, then you have a way to be able to pay to get in front of more people. But branding and marketing are going to be your organic sides of it. And when we look at the 3 pillars for any business, you look at your 3 commodities: time, energy, and money. Andy Elliott didn't have money, but he had a lot of energy and a lot of time. And so with his polarizing personality, he splashed the market because he was doing things and saying things that were really rubbing people in a very uncomfortable way, which became shareable and memorable. Yeah. Whereas if you come into it and you're very soft, you're kind of quiet, you're kind of meek, you're going to have to spend a lot of money in advertising in hopes that your branding and marketing is going to be doing its job because you're not polarizing. Yeah. Not to say you have to be taking your shirt off, having a 6-pack in every business you do, but there's an element of, we look at Mattress Mac. We look at Planet Ford. We look at different brands that really take who they are and their personalities and become polarizing in their markets and in their businesses. That Planet Ford does a great job. Mattress Mac, Gallery Furniture does a great job. There are a lot of furniture stores out there, but Mac does a lot of stuff in the community. like what Mike was talking about, not just in things that are paid, but things that are community service. So when you look at your business and you look at what am I going to spend my money on, and you look at branding, marketing, and advertising, really it's going to be 40% is going to be your branding, 35% roughly your marketing, and about 25% in advertising. If you want to now, and you have some give and take again, depending on the tenure of your business. If you're a startup, it's going to be a lot, but again, it may not be a lot of money. It may be a lot of time and energy, printing up your own flyers and planning them out there. But like Micah said, it's going to take 5 to 7 impressions, different places where you actually see the business, the brand, the colors, the people, and then another 3 to 5 before they actually take the next step. So that's your retargeting, whether that's organic or in advertising. And so that's where you're using all these channels now to do that, because if you're not doing it, the market will. So if you're not establishing your brand, if you're not putting it out there, the consumers will do it for you, but that may not be in your favor. So now with social media and digital, you do have way more control over the narrative and over the brand reputation. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there to do it.
That's really good. Great question. Next question. What is the number one thing that you would tell a new entrepreneur that you wish someone would have told you? Good question. Good question.
That's a good question.
It's going to take twice as long and it's going to be 10 times as hard.
It's all in your head.
Yeah. So for me, it's really, if I'm talking to the Sean 10 years ago, it's being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and doing that really quickly, and join rooms, hire a coach, hire a mentor, join rooms that really stretch you, that challenge you, that are going to hold you to higher standards and accountability. And really, and the byproduct of all that is making sure that you're in alignment with protecting your faith, your marriage, and your health. Because without, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing all this and sacrificing it, what's it all for? So making sure that you're protecting your health, marriage, and faith, and joining rooms that are in alignment with that as well, because that could prevent you or hedge you from going down the road that you don't want to go down. So that's my
very
thoughts.
well said, Sean. Absolutely. Every nail hit on the head right there.
Yeah.
Immediately go into creating SOPs. I don't care if you're alone or you have 5 employees. Start implementing it now. If you're struggling to stay on that task, what makes you think hiring an employee is going to be able to take over that? You need to have everything that you could possibly think of as far as a systems and process, and implement it if you're alone or have 1 or 2 people, because it just continues to help you grow it as you scale and grow in your company. So something I took 10 years to learn. So, yeah.
That's good. It's really good, Cody.
Say for me, what I wish somebody had told me is work ethic is not a growth strategy. So I thought you can hustle your way to a certain revenue amount. And then, for me, I thought just being the hardest worker in the building was going to be enough. Right. And what I learned was leadership is your floor and your systems are your ceiling. Right. You're not going to scale to any factor without systems and process and all of that. And then, I think I probably took this from Sean, but you have the hit by a bus theory, right? Starting out day 1 in business, you get hit by a bus. Do you still have a business? You're in the hospital for 30 days. Can't do anything. Does your company still run? And hand in hand with that is you're building to be sellable. Even if you never sell, right? You want something somebody can come in and buy. So yeah, I wish somebody had told me that early.
Great advice. MD, any final thoughts before we roll?
I think don't take it personal. Just take it constructive in anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because when you're building a business, you're doing something you've never done before, and you can easily take it very personal if something doesn't work. Like, I'm not capable. No, you haven't figured it out yet. So just don't take it personal. Business ownership, entrepreneurship is the greatest journey of self-discovery, and it demands a new version of you every single day if you really want to grow that business. And not taking it personal is, for a lot of people, their identity's caught up in their thing. And if it's not working or if it's going sideways, they think they're not capable. And it's just, you just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
That's why your circle matters.
That's so true. Well, and then approaching it with, in maturity, and then it makes me think of how you're being approached, and everybody receives constructive feedback differently. And that's one of the biggest struggles that I've had to learn in leadership is approaching everybody in different manners, and how I should meet them where they are, because there could be somebody that needs to be challenged, like a Cody Schneider. It's like, hey, just like, I want to be challenged. Like, don't soften it, like, challenge me. And then somebody, I may be talking to somebody completely opposite of that personality. And it's like, if I talk to them the same way I talk to Cody, then they're put, they're leaving not empowered or challenged. So, not, like you said, I love that you said that, MD, is not taking it personal, and just making sure that you're self-aware.
The truth is, I feel like the ones that do that for you are the people you want to be around.
100%.
Right? Those are the ones I want to be around, because I've seen the most growth that way, right?
Yeah.
So what rooms you're putting yourself in, if those people are, me and Micah do it all the time. It's almost daily at this point. And yeah, I love it. That's what fuels me. It's because I believe, because they care, right?
Yeah.
Like they care and they love me, and they're like, man, like, you want that growth? Well, here's where it is, or this is what helped me get there, and sharing, and yeah.
That's good. It's really good.
Very well said.
Next question. Do you have a person that drove you to succeed because they told you that you never will? Good question. So for me, I don't. However, I use what's happened to me in the past. I've been fired from 2 employers, and it told me that I wasn't meant to work for somebody. I had to create my own destiny. So even though people, I'm sure, have probably doubted me, they've judged me, we're human beings. It's human nature. There's been talk behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, it's like, one thing I've learned about entrepreneurship and business ownership is you will have a strong backbone. And especially, bringing in the Christ into this, you having a relationship with Jesus, man, it doesn't matter what people say about me. It doesn't matter what's happening into the past, because I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, my Lord, my Savior. Man, I just feel like an unstoppable man. And that's what allows me to align with my purpose-driven life. That's what gives me fuel, more than proving people wrong, more than, the people that fired me, and the friction and the problems and the criticism and the judgment. None of that freaking, like, whatever. Those are hiccups. Like, I'm going this way because this is what the Lord is who has called me to become. So, man, it's the best feeling in the world if you can go down that journey and have that relationship.
Very well said again.
Any further thoughts? We'll move on.
I had a ton of people that doubted me. Everybody said I couldn't do it, and it taught me a very important lesson about internal and external validation, right? So I took all of that very early on, and I used that as freaking fuel to the fire, right? And what I learned was, once I made it on paper, I didn't feel any different. So I took all these people and everything, and I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And so I did. And then I realized that wasn't my purpose, right? And kind of going back on what Sean was saying, if you don't have your purpose locked in, why you do what you do, and all these different factors, you'll just burn out on that, because you end up realizing, once you do prove them wrong, that's not going to keep driving you, right? So I hit that metric very early, right? I proved them wrong. And then they were like, oh, man, yep, you sure did. And I'm like, okay, well, now what? So if you don't have your actual true purpose, and you're not doing it for a deeper meaning, it's going to fizzle out.
Yeah. I think a big part for me is proving myself. I always want to prove everything to myself. I feel, and Sean, you could probably relate to this, I just hold myself to a very high standard.
Yeah.
So it really, a lot of times had nothing to do with like an individual per se. It was me. Like I'm always chasing the next best version of me.
Yes.
And whatever that looks like. So, and it's changing, almost daily, you know, and it's beautiful because, I'm not chasing it for anyone else, right? Other than, you know, of course, my 3 boys, you know, I'm chasing it with them though. So yeah.
Micah said it well. You know, I think if you have that catalyst that might light a fire under your butt to get you started, can be great, but it's not your fuel, because there's going to come a point like Micah where when you finally have made it and you're like, see, I told you, but they're nowhere to be found, because A, they don't care, and B, you're so far down the road, they're not even around anymore to even be a part of your success, because they really didn't care to see you win in the first place.
Mm.
So, you know, when you find out, rather than proving people wrong, prove yourself right. Prove that you are capable of this thing, you know, because that becomes the why that has the long runway ahead of you. That really is the driver, and, you know, your why and your purpose and the impact you're making is really the wind in that sail, because you start to see the impact you're making. That's an incredible fuel versus a naysayer that didn't believe in you.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it can be a great catalyst. It can get you out of the place you were and headed in the direction you are, but it's going to be it's going to be the nitrous. It's going to get you going, but it's not sustainable for the long term. Huh?
So it fizzle out real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good. It's really good. What's the biggest mistake business owners make when trying to scale too fast or not scaling fast enough? So one of the things that I've learned, that I've taken away just with building the insurance company, seeing that over the last 10 years, and we hit a stagnation about midway, about 5 to 6 years in, building a landscape company, selling it, scaling that really fast, and then now Level Up and Live, is one of the things that I've realized is scaling too fast. If there's no systems in place, it's going to, you're gonna run into some adversity, some friction, and mistakes, right? When you have those no systems in place, or lack of thereof. Cody had mentioned that earlier in the podcast episode, is having the SOPs. And then scaling too slow. One of the things that I really had to reflect back on was the times that I was scaling too slow is because I wasn't taking full ownership. I wasn't looking at the man in the mirror. I wasn't looking inward to going, because everything rises and falls on leadership. So when you're scaling too slow, it equaled I was taking no bold action. I was taking no risk. there was no courageous moves, bringing in people or investing in people and reinvesting my money. I was more complacent and content where I was in life because I had made it to society. So there's definitely an alignment. So you can either scale too fast, scale too slow, but that's what I have learned from my experiences. Scaling too fast, lack of systems; scaling too slow, no courage, look inward. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So you're the bottleneck. Everything stops with you. The buck stops with you, in other words.
Scale your systems before you scale your volume. Can't outwork a broken system.
It's really good. What if somebody asked, well, first off, what is a system? Can you give an example for that, Micah? And then how are systems improved on? Do they change? Do they evolve? And how often do you look at that?
Yeah. For me, a system is something anybody can do. It's a documented process that you could take somebody with zero experience in that particular task, and they can follow this process and be able to get the same result that you would get. And then I would say, yes, on the systems, they definitely evolve. When we were at, a $1 million system is going to be a lot different from a $5 million system, right? So I think you have different tiers you hit, and then those systems that did support you at $1 million a year in revenue or 500,000 or whatever it is, They're not going to support you at 5 because your framework is so different. So I think it's a constant adaptability. And I tell my team too, you know, this is a process that we have in place. If you have a way to get the same result faster or better, we'll update the system, right? This is how I know to do it. But as I've gone through all the different hiring, what I found is now I'm hiring people that know more than me.
Yeah.
Right. And so they are going to have a different way of doing something that I've done for 5 years the same way. And it may be better, you know, and you have to be okay with it. But the bottom line is you want it documented. So anybody leaves you, they get sick, they get hit by a bus, somebody else can step in and still get the same result.
That's good. It's really good. Any other thoughts, guys, before we move to the next?
Mic drop. Y'all did it.
Okay, we're about halfway through, guys, out of our 14 questions. Do we want to continue or do we want to wrap things up and do like an episode 2? What are y'all's thoughts?
I would love an episode 2.
Y'all like the thought of it, episode 2?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I do.
Well, it's a good stopping point, so we'll wrap it up there.
Okay. You already paused the recording or what?
No.
Oh, okay.
We're all authentic, bro. Like,
yeah.
So
I'm here for the whole thing.
First and foremost, I just want to acknowledge, you know, Cody and Micah and MD for saying yes today and being on the Level Up and Live podcast. You guys are y'all have leaned in, y'all have embodied, and y'all have really gone through the trials and the tribulations, the experience to be able to have this roundtable and this panel today. So I know our listeners, our audience, which are entrepreneurs and business owners that are listening to this, I just encourage them to take one action step, to take one thing away from these questions, because I know we've all faced it as business owners and leaders. And if you haven't, then you will. And it's not if, but when. And make sure that you're connecting with these guys. They're all over social media. I know they would be more than happy to do coffee with you, do a phone call with you, whatever it may be. Just plug yourself in and take that one action step. And if you've got more questions, we'd love to hear this from our listeners and our members. We're super grateful for the individuals that have leaned in and that had asked these questions today. So thank you, MD, Micah, and Cody, for being on the show, opening up, being vulnerable, and creating this safe place to pour back into other people. I have no doubt this is going to multiply and impact hundreds and thousands of people in the coming months. So appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for
If anybody has any questions, just reach out to us on social media, Level Up and Live.
Yep.
Send us a DM or a message and we'll get the message any of us.
Amen to that. All social media. So outside of that, thank you all for being on the show today. Go out and impact with intention, level up, live your best life, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again, guys.